everybody. Thank you for joining me again for another episode of the Wayne Public Library Virtual Jazz Series. And today I have the really great pleasure of speaking with saxophonist Bruce Williams. So thank you and welcome.
Hi, Patty.
I'm so glad that we had a chance to get this coordinated. And I had the pleasure of seeing you perform live now twice. Originally, I saw you at William Patterson's Jazz Series in February of 2023 with the Freddie Hendrix Experience.
Mm-hmm.
That was an exciting concert. I really enjoyed that. And then this past Sunday down in Metuchen, New Jersey, you were performing with Ted Chubb, and you were just a masterful saxophonist, and I'm very, very excited to talk to you today.
Well, I appreciate you having me do this.
So let's start with a little bit of your background. You're originally from Washington, D.C. area, right?
Yes.
And I think it was your brother, Anthony, that kind of turned you on to the saxophone.
Yeah, more or less. You know, he was a tenor player playing like I don't know, like horn section kind of bands, but the way he played was more about, like I said, horn section and kind of funk pop stuff, you know.
And your family's very musical too.
But there's some musicians in the family for sure, mostly on my father's side. My Aunt May would play hymns on harmonica, piano, organ, guitar, and my Uncle John, her husband, played trumpet, and they all sang. There was a bunch of singers and piano players on that side. I'm the only professional musician out of both sides of the family.
Do you sing as well?
Only when I have to.
I think you should pursue that. You may be like the Nat King Cole of the saxophones.
No, 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 no.
So when you were going to school, you were introduced to different instruments as well. I think you took up trumpet and drums.
No, my day approaching what instrument to play, I was like trumpet, sax, drums, trumpet, sax, drums, trumpet, sax, drums, and it landed on saxophone.
Like a spin wheel, right?
Yeah,
Now in school, I have a note here that you learned playing clarinet later.
yeah, a lot later.
Now, was that in high school or when you were out of school?
I mean, I fooled around with it in high school a little bit, but not seriously at all. I started taking clarinet in college.
So the definition, you have this on your website that you're a doubler. Is that the definition where you play more than one woodwind instrument, whether it be a clarinet or a flute or an oboe or bassoon? So is that the nature of it?
Yeah, I mean, I play more flute than clarinet. I really feel like my clarinet's sad, but I most of the time play my parts that are put in front of me, and I just it's not an instrument that I'm in love with at all. I like to play the flute a lot more. I also consider the soprano sax as the double. Yes, it's in the primary family, but there's a lot of people that play the soprano that don't sound like they really understand the soprano. So I treat it, and when I teach it as a double.
Did you ever have an interest in pursuing tenor or baritone?
Yeah, I mean, I played all the saxophones at one point, but I think I'm primarily an alto player, soprano player. Um, I think just tenor and the baritone is just too big. I have a few tenors, but I mainly use them to record or to just for educational purposes to transcribe something or when I'm teaching somebody.
So I understand that Howard Burns introduced you to Charlie Parker. Is that something that also turned you on to playing alto?
I was already playing alto, but when I met Howard Burns, I met him as me playing tenor.
Mm.
But I was playing alto in high school, but right outside of DC, Montgomery County, Maryland, I was in the all county all-star jazz band playing second tenor. And I heard something in him. I said, I want to get with this guy, you know. And yeah, he introduced me to Bird.
That's quite an introduction at probably a very young age too.
Yeah, I was 16 or 17, something, I don't know. But like a lot of students are turned on much younger today because they have access to so much stuff, much more stuff than we did. you
That's
know.
true. Yeah, that's a good point. I have a notation here that you taught yourself, you further self-taught yourself by transcribing to learn phrasing of musicians and learn to interpret eighth notes and accents. And there's a little note I made that your teacher appropriated that. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
My teacher appropriated that.
That he stole it from you, that your transcription.
Oh, I did have a transcription in college that disappeared.
I was using appropriated.
Yes, it disappeared. Um, yeah, I often, if I don't transcribe on the horn, I'll do it singing to mimic the phrasing because we all scat to a degree, and something is short or long or a fall off to us, how we sing it is how we hear it. That's how we would mimic or imitate it. So I would really check out people's phrasing a lot that way. And then I would go to the saxophone and try to apply it.
There are many wonderful interviews that you've done, and I had the pleasure of watching most of them. And you frequently talk about the terms that come up frequently are phrasing, articulation. Um, do you want to talk a little bit about how that impacts your playing as a saxophonist?
Yeah, I mean, it's like someone singing or speaking, you have to articulate or enunciate. So for us, I think it's about being definitive about your statements as opposed to, not so sure of yourself all the time. Like collect your thoughts, say them when you mean them, mean what you say. So I try to play as if I'm speaking to somebody and this is what I'm meaning to say, not sort of. And articulation is the strongest mode for that. It's not flippant, it's very definite. Either it's short, it's long, it's hard, it's soft. There's a doit up or fall off, a shake, a vibrato. All those things fall into the category of how you articulate. How you form your opinion about statements. I mean, that's really what it is. If we're, as an improviser, I feel like you're trying to communicate, have a conversation, either with you and the audience. For me, it's most of the time me and the piano player to then me and the audience. Me and the drummer to then me and the audience.
So you're tying in really to the rhythm section.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a closet drummer, you know, and I hear rhythm, as well as I hear harmony. I hear rhythm.
So, as a teacher, then, is it easy to teach students phrasing and articulation, or is it up to them to expose themselves to as much jazz, listen to as much live jazz, and just try to instill it, learn those foundations to then create what you're trying to impart?
Well, I used the approach that my teacher, Dr. Leroy Barton, used, and teachers before him. It's more of like a classical pedagogical approach where you learn how to phrase and articulate based on the classics of the music as well as etude books and studies and things like that. You have to learn to tone. You have to learn to place the note where you want it. If this music comes from the broader perspective of an African American tradition, which there's dance music involved and there's rhythms involved, you can't touch a drum without it making noise. So why do we always have to play the saxophone like we're huffing into the horn? You have to attack it. Like if you touch the snare drum, it's going to make noise. And the snare drum is the great communicator of the drum set. So you can't halfway play the snare drum. So if we're dealing with dance and rhythm, why not articulate? Be forward. It doesn't have to be aggressive, but it does have to be definitive.
One of the other things that I found fascinating is you had talked about mouthpieces, and I played alto saxes in grade school, and I hadn't realized that the shape of a mouthpiece, the what it's made out of, can affect your sound or affect how your mouth, your muscles, I guess. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, that's shop talk. It depends on the person. Some people like hard rubber, some people like metal. I tend to play hard rubber mouthpieces. Um, There's the
Parker
notion that
had a
the metal
bronze.
mouthpiece,
I'm
huh?
sorry, Charlie Parker had a bronze medal mouthpiece, didn't he?
Well, he played both. The end of his career, the one that's like probably the two that are the most famous is him playing on a Brillhart and then this London Selmer that looks kind of like a link. Um, it's it's up to the individual. Like they say, classical music, you should play on a hard rubber mouthpiece. But there's evidence that the great Marcel Mule played on a metal Selmer. So it's about what does it do for you? How do you make it work? It's not, we get too much into the visual that you see a metal mouthpiece, all of a sudden it's got to be bright. That's not true. It's the architecture on the inside of the mouthpiece. High baffle, low baffle, roll off baffle, thin tip rail, thick tip rail, thin rails, thick rails, you know, um, the density of the material. A lot of things go into it. I tend to play hard rubber mouthpieces.
Did it take you a while to find the one that you feel works best for your style?
Well, I've played a lot of different mouthpieces over the years. I mean, I still have a few as reference pieces I don't play anymore that I won't let go of. Like my Meyer that I played for many years, I still have. These Yanagisawa mouthpieces that were made like Myers, like New York Myers. I have three or four that I won't let go of. And then I've been playing Van Doren for many years. Um, I have some mouthpieces from Ted Klum, which I think are excellent also. Um, but I'm a Van Doren artist, you know.
It never truly. It didn't until I saw your interview speaking about this. It never occurred to me that the mouthpiece was such an integral part of the instrument as a whole that you could actually change it out and change your result.
You can change the initial result, but the sound is basically based on how you hear in your anatomy. Because you can eventually make almost anything sound almost the way you want it to if you kind of just force it to a degree. Some things are inherently more bright, more dark, more streamlined. Um, I really don't like the term warm all the time, but more warm. You know, it could be anything. I mean, I've seen people play mouthpieces that are not intended for jazz and they sound fine. You know,
What does that mean then? Intended for jazz versus intended for classical, I'm assuming.
the classical mouthpiece is set up so that you can kind of pretend to be a string instrument.
Huh.
You
That's
know,
interesting.
but with jazz, it seems to be more set up to be a little more vocal. Have like a wider dynamic range. With the classical mouthpiece, it's never going to get to be but so loud because
Hmm.
it's not intended for that. Like, it's supposed to be in a chamber situation or three to four, maybe five saxophones, saxophone with a piano or in a trio setting, to blend. Not meant to be so strident or, brilliant all the time.
That's really interesting. Thank you.
Hmm.
So you had gone to the University of the District of Columbia on a full music scholarship,
Hmm.
and you studied with Calvin Jones from 87 to 90. And
Hmm.
then in 1990, you came to Wayne and studied at William Patterson until 93. Uh,
Yep.
that was, I have a nice long list of people you studied with. Why don't you share that?
Well, it's a lot of people. At UDC, my main teacher, other than Dr. Jones, was Dr. Leroy Barton Jr. And I took some clarinet lessons from Dr. George Edwards and some African American music history from Hildred Roach and music theory from Judith Corey, Professor Judith Corey. And when I came to New Jersey, my focus was to get around like the greatest jazz saxophone instruction I could get to. And it wasn't just saxophone. I mean, Harold Mabron was a teacher, Norman Simmons was a teacher, Rufus Reed was a teacher. But my saxophone teachers at William Patterson were what's his name?
Joe Lovano?
Andy, no, Andy Fusco, and then Joe Lovano, and Gary Simoleon, Steve Wilson.
And C. Teray?
Steve Teray was an ensemble coach. He
That's
was,
exciting.
yeah.
So your time in William Patterson, did it allow you to then do gigs in New York City and branch out in that regard?
I didn't play in New York that much while in school. I left school and that stuff started to take place. Um, I played more around the Jersey area and Patterson with oh man, what was his name? I forget this guy in Patterson. He'd always hire guys from William Patterson. Remember right
It'll
now,
come to you
but
at 2 o'clock in the morning tonight.
2 o'clock in the morning, yeah, and I'll send you a message.
Yeah, there's one of the things here at the library that we try to do each semester is to have an ensemble play to give them the opportunity to have a platform right
Right.
in town and to really support the students and we've also been trying to work with Patterson Music Project, which is the lower grades, and have them perform too. So it really is about getting to those youngins, right?
Yeah, I mean, another great teacher at William Patterson was Chico Mendoza, because I played in Chico's Latin jazz band program too.
That was with
Um,
Nick Schubel, right?
yeah, the great Shubla Khan.
Oh, I like that nickname. I will have to share that with you. He speaks very highly of you.
That's my man.
He's one of my earlier interviews as well, and he's a lot of fun.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about the different labels you have or the hats you wear. So as a saxophonist, obviously musician, educator, composer, band leader, and mentor. And one of the things that I'd like to ask you about is how do you define the different roles of
I
the,
remember the name. I remember the name. Kelvin Quince. Kelvin Quince.
well done.
Yeah, I remember the name.
Above these different hats you wear, how do you define the different roles of being a mentor versus an educator versus a coach?
I think you have to be all at once. It depends on what the student needs. Not everybody is learning exactly the same way. You can present the same material, but you may have to deliver it differently. I think a lot of us are visual learners. Sometimes you have to paint a picture. Sometimes you have to show them a video. Sometimes you have to show them music. But everybody uses their ears, you know, for a greater or lesser degree. And as a mentor, I have a lot of people that they've been in my life. I've been in their lives. Many of them since they were in high school, sometimes a little younger, and we're still great friends. Once we go through that process, I look at it like we're friends. You know, I don't like to loom over the top of someone's head. Oh, I'm your teacher forever, or you study with me. Like, if we on the bandstand, if we end up on the bandstand together playing music for somebody, we're both getting paid. We're on the gig together. You know, coach, professor. I mean, yeah, that's what you do. you know, teaching. Some people you don't have to teach. You have to guide. So that's why it's kind of all at once the same thing.
Something that just came to mind is as an educator, especially in music, you're going to have students that are going to intellectually understand it, but are there the students that don't feel it?
Yes, because some people look at music as math because music is a science. I think we all have somewhat of a mathematical approach to certain aspects of the music, but when you're dealing with a music like jazz, it's very much like a cultural music. It's so tied to America and all the things, good, bad, ugly, and beautiful. You want to feel some things, you want to be able to express. Without the blues, without the soul, the music becomes digital. It just becomes zeros and ones. It's just stuff, people are playing this and playing that. Um, and you can tell the audience might go for it if they're like, excuse the term, like jazz nerds that like they're like really into, wow, he played this lick that's like this lick or that, like as opposed to delivering an experience. You know, I tend to want to deliver an experience.
I think this ties into what I read you, about was the shaping of phrases. And sometimes leaving those pauses or the long notes is helping to create that experience. And it's not just about delivering a whole lot of notes. Would you?
Yes, I mean, yes, if you've listened to any great orator, like great speeches, no one's constantly rambling. Sometimes the pauses are the things they're saying to you, what are they going to say next? I mean, they're hanging on to the last word. If you're just hitting people with a barrage of notes, that's like driving down the highway and all of a sudden the gravel truck just spills a bunch of gravel on your glasses. You're getting pelted. And I never really liked that. You know, I think there's a time and place. I do it, but when? Not every time, not every song, you know.
So when you were working with Frank Foster, he the composer of Shiny Stockings, which is such a wonderful song that he wrote with Count Basie. With his being influenced by Charlie Parker and Sonny Stitt, what did you learn from him?
So much. I mean, Frank Foster is one of the most amazing musicians that have ever lived. And I don't think people really understand that how deep he was as a writer and arranger, as a saxophone player, as a human being. It was one of the greatest experiences. The funny thing is, my teacher, Dr. Leroy Barton, used to be the lead alto player in the loud minority before me. And I totally forgot about his life and relationship. And next, I'm the lead alto player. So it's quite interesting. I think a lot of people, like Frank and some others, I'm in their sphere in a divine way. Like I'm placed among certain people for a reason. It's not haphazard. It's not like just by chance. I think, like they say, creator has a master plan. I'm around certain people for a reason. And Foss was one of them. Foss was like a dad to me. I've had a few musicians that were like fathers to me because I lost my father early. I lost my dad at 17. And they stepped up and they talked to me directly. They talked to me about music directly. They shared things musically, guided me, called, lift me up when I'm in the middle of a problem. Um, Frank Foster and his wife Cecilia talked to me about my marriage. So I mean, he, he was way more to me than just the folklore. You know, like I actually knew, held him and talked to him, looked him in the eye, and played the music. So Frank Foster's amazing, like a genius. He's somebody that he's about one of 3 to 4 people I wish I could have another good half an hour uninterrupted conversation with, like now. And I've been saying that a lot lately. Some of what I want to talk to him about is coming back just from kind of ruminating on past events. But I miss him. I miss him every day, you know.
Have you thought about maybe a project of a great big tribute towards him?
I get caught up in too many tributes. Maybe, maybe. I'd rather you celebrate me, celebrate my music because I just did a Gigi Grice tribute, or I want somebody doing a tribute this and that. And like, um, and the other artists are allowed to do their own thing without not as much seasoning as I have. And I've written a lot of tunes, so I don't need to always. Maybe I will. Maybe maybe you know. Um, it would take a lot, you know. Because
Well,
it's not just
it
the
is.
notes, it's very emotional. It's not just the notes, you know.
Well, the tunes that you've written with his influence in mind, that's a tribute right there. Um,
Yeah, I mean, direct and indirect influences on you all the time. Because I sat in that section for 15 years playing lead alto with him standing in front of me, giving me cues and information and things. Like I still have the bulk of what we played in the band. I still have the charts he gave me. I still have it like a lead alto Bible in a way. So sometimes I just put them out, put the metronome on a medium tempo, and just play through them. You know,
that's a big gift right there,
yeah,
and
it
that's
sure
you
is.
you communing with him as well.
Oh yeah, we used to laugh a lot. Used to laugh a lot.
So you've also explored playing in different genres, hip hop and avant-garde. How do you make it your own sound, then incorporating those different elements?
Well, growing up in Washington D.C., I played D.C.'s funk music called go-go. So I hear funk and R&B like it's the blues. My oldest brother Mike had a great record collection, and I would hear all kinds of music all the time. Then my mom would have stuff going on, you know, and my cousins would have stuff going on. So that's a part of who I am. Like I didn't learn jazz just because of school. You know what I mean? School helped, but a lot of students learn jazz because of school or because of a program. You know, it was harder for us coming up to learn it because of a fewer resources. And it wasn't written down in a way that was so simple to understand, like a manual. You know what I mean? We didn't have like a jazz for dummies kind of vibe. You know, you took your lumps trying to learn how to play this music, and luckily I had a bunch of older musicians to point me in directions, embrace me, and and kick your butt. Um, Avant-garde. I look at avant-garde, funk, jazz, all of it, blues. It's just a to me, it's just still music. It's just, for me, it's all black music. I don't really care like which one it's just sound. It's just sound. I mean, somebody thinking it's got to be this or that and having a snobbish opinion, just sounds. Either the sound affects you in a way that, that's profound or it doesn't. Some people would like to say this is good or that's bad. It's it, there's bad avant-garde like there's good avant-garde. There's bad funk like there's good funk. There's a lot of bad jazz, but it's sound. Even the bad jazz, somebody likes it. You know, it's just an amalgamation of sound.
So you have toured the world with many, many people. Do
Mhm.
you enjoy touring, or would you prefer to stay home and have a regular gig in in the area you live?
I like to go out. My travel has slowed down a lot. I used to travel a lot with Roy Hargrove playing with the RH Factor and with his big band. And you know, that slowed my travel down a lot, when he passed away. Other people either got sick or died also, like Roy passed away. So certain things just weren't as busy. Certain things are coming back in a little bit. I don't mind being at home because I have a 17-year-old daughter that I want to see her do well and go to school. And as she goes to college, I'll probably get busier again. I look at it still like another divine calling that I need to be home at this period. And I'm still very busy, between teaching at two schools and gigging. I'm very busy. So, and also with the way the travel is right now, and this whole thing about real ID and passports and how just to get through the airport is such a pain in the neck. It's just such a pain in the neck. Yeah, I'd rather, right now, I'd rather be home, but I'm about to go out. I'm going, I'm going out in June. Um, I'm playing 2 weeks with jazz at Lincoln Center. So we're going to Canada, New York State, Philly, DC. Actually, for the New Jersey folks, if we're playing in New York, what is that? Like the 12th and 13th or 13th and 14th in New York. And then we're playing in Morristown the following week, like on a Thursday or something like that, you know. So, I'm just subbing for my good friend Sherman Irby. He's got to be out doing some other things, so I'm just coming. I mean, I played in the band years ago for a short time, very short time, and so I'm friends with everybody in the band, and me and Winton are very cool. So I'm just coming to cover that for that time period. Just starting to check out the music today. I got it last night. You know.
That's exciting.
hmm
So when you're working in a big band situation, and you're the lead alto or whatever chair, what do you feel your responsibilities are in that setting?
I'm 9 times out of 10 the lead alto player, sometimes second alto. I'm called to play lead a lot, but I feel like really a second alto player that knows how to play lead within his own style. And it's just leadership. I'm called upon to lead from small group to large ensemble a lot, to anchor things a lot. The part of that's probably my personality. Um, but it's a lot of weight, trying to be on time, try to be on time with the music, try to really give the music some color and direction. That's a lot of work.
I had a
Sometimes
notation from an interview where you said that role creates a sound for the section.
for the section and the band, you know,
That's a big responsibility.
it's a huge responsibility because you have to take care those other four individuals, plus you have to lock in with the first trumpet player. You got to hear what the trumpet player is doing with the drums in relationship to what the leader of the band is doing. And then you got to listen to all the other people in your section and how they connect with the other trumpets and trombones. It's a lot of work. So my ears are on fire.
When you work with your jazz organ trio,
Mm.
what is that comprised of then? An organist, yourself, and
A drummer.
how did
Yeah.
that come about?
Well, many years ago, if you remember the Peppermint Lounge
I don't, but
in Orange,
I wish I'd known about it.
yeah, Radam Schwartz was on organ, Gary Moore on guitar, and Don Williams was on the drums. And I would go to that session all the time, the organ session. And Don Williams was out with the great Jimmy McGriff a lot. He said McGriff needs a saxophone player. You need to be at the Peppermint Lounge at say 7:30 because he's coming down to hear somebody, see if you can take him on the road. I was like, bet. McGriff was there a little bit earlier than that, so I showed up about 7:15 or something like that. Got my horn out, was jamming, playing, 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 playing. And then McGriff says, "Hey." So I go to the bar to talk to him. He asked me if I wanted to go on the road. I said, sure. I was very green. That was my first road gig to Europe, of all places. And from that point on, I got into a lot of organ situations. The Newark used to be the Newark Jazz Festival, the Organ Festival that happened for a while. I played on that twice with different people and jamming with some legends. Playing so many years with Cecil Brooks III. His group was called the CB3 Band, which had organ. It was Radam Schwartz on organ and Cecil, and 2 to 3 horns. So for me, it was very natural to go towards a jazz organ scenario whenever. Um, I played a couple years pretty steady with McGriff, and then off and on here and there he would call, and then so many years, well over 20 years with Radham with Cecil, and you know playing with Pat Bianchi and Kyle Kohler, and we just had a thing, especially playing with the drummer of Vince Ector's band, Organatomy. So it's very easy for me to like call one of those guys and go in that direction. I hear it, you know.
Now, with your time not touring quite as much, although you said you are going to be traveling a little bit, do you find that this is where you tend to take that time to compose and arrange?
My focus right now is practicing, you know. I'm gonna take a couple lessons. I have a flute teacher and I'm gonna see her tomorrow. I'm going over to take my 40 lashes and and walk out with my head tucked low and say thank you for the 40 lashes and come away stronger. Um, I have a wonderful teacher. Her name is Alice Jones, Dr. Alice Jones. And to date, I think she's been probably the best fit for me. My previous teacher, Laura George, was great too. Um, um, but Alice, has been really great for me so far, you know.
It's really exciting, actually, to hear that those who teach also need or have teachers, and the learning process never ever stops.
No, I mean, at Juilliard, I have to help the kids with their flute and clarinet and you help push them in the right direction. Although they take doubling class, you get new kids that don't play them at all. And they need help. They need a boost. So we're there to give them a boost. So I need to shed, practice. I need to study, to give back. And I enjoy it, you know. It's like anything, I've got multiple pursuits that are hobbies. And like one such thing, I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, second degree black belt. Now I started that at the age of 37, which is kind of unusual for a lot of people. And it's still a focus of mine. I've slowed down in the past 5 years for some health reasons, but if I want to do something, I just say I'm going to do it. Like my other one is I got a little itch to start figuring out how to play golf. So I got clubs. I went to the store and I bought a set of nice clubs and stuff. I got a buddy of mine that's my coach. We go to the driving range. I'm probably going to get out on the real, golf course really soon. It's like, yeah. I mean, if I wanted to be like a championship archer, I probably could get to a high intermediate level within 2 years. I know that. I just know how I am, you know.
It's about
So
focus,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and like so like wanting to get my flute on another level is you have to get with someone that's better than you know, that's more accomplished. They know that instrument more than you do because saxophone is crude in comparison, So to have someone make you a little bit more refined, it does help with your other endeavors too.
Did you have any interest when you were younger to play in any sort of classical or chamber orchestra? Would that have helped you in your overall playing?
Well, my high school, we had a very, very strong concert band and wind ensemble program. So I got exposed to a lot of classical music through that. Um, I wouldn't say I was a classical player, but I then in college took some classical saxophone lessons for a few years. And so all those books and methods and things like that, I still use as a jazz player and I pass on to my students. All my students have to do etudes out of various books. I mean, it's just a part of the platform to keep you honest, from Rubank stuff to Closet to Marcel Mule to Siegfried Karg Ellert to David Height books. I mean, various things. I mean, it's like whatever you're going to use that's going to help you clean up what you need to clean up or address what you need to address. You know, it doesn't have to be fast. It just has to be practical. You know.
Well, it also goes to your what you're saying about the need to practice, and then that has to be an integral part of any, well, really anything anybody does, whether it's golfing, whether it's jujitsu, whether it's
Yeah.
music. You have to put in the time for practice, and that's the only way that you're going to get better and get that muscle memory. Um, and I think we're in our culture, not our culture, human beings love the shortcut, right? So I know I like the shortcut, but there are other things that I have actually put in my time and it's paid off. So um,
For me, I like multiple things, you know. So it's just a matter of keeping a stimulus going, stimuli. I just need to have, it's like, scratching your itch in multiple areas, you know. I think one helps the other. Honestly, I believe that, jujitsu helps my saxophone playing. Even if I'm not training, just watching or thinking about, it helps my situational awareness. It helps me deal with other people. Flute helps my saxophone, clarinet helps your saxophone. Um, if it's no more than just airflow, control over the air and how you articulate, thinking about a broader palette for articulation and breath control, you know, one's got to help the other. And then the golf thing is like, I believe just from watching and trying to learn how to deal with it, it like jujitsu is a level of self mastery because you're really going against yourself. Jiu-jitsu is you and another person, but it's still you understanding your technique to apply it against somebody else. So it's your wits versus their wits. It's not like, there's no team. There's nobody to come back to help you. Golf, there's no team to help you. It's you and the ball. You know what I mean? So you develop some intestinal fortitude and some wit and survival skills as a result.
well, something you just touched on that's actually uh, applies to music is be that kind of mental fortitude. And as you said earlier, when you're on the bandstand and you're dealing with all these different musicians, whether it's one or two or whether it's a whole bandstand, you have to be communicating tacitly with everybody and
Yeah.
and being spatially aware and hearing it and absorbing it and then producing, which I just find it's almost like a juggling act on a unicycle. Like I don't know how you all do it.
Well, on the bandstand, I don't have perfect pitch, but I hear everything. I hear everything. Like I hear me, I hear what the drummer's doing, the bass player, I hear the piano player, I hear if the time is good, if the time is shifted. I hear people in the audience talking. I hear people on their phones. I hear people, tapping on stuff or whatever. I hear everything, and because that's my job to listen to everything to be able to give something.
It was such a great concert on Sunday, and oh my goodness, yeah, it was fascinating to just be able to hear the live music again and see that interplay. I watched you a lot during that concert, watching Oscar Perez on piano and Carmen and Tara on drums. You were totally interacting, and I felt it and I could see it, and it
Hmm.
was really exciting. And of course, with the bassist and of course Ted Chubb as trumpeter.
Hmm.
But you can't be live music. And do you find it challenging to get your students to go hear live music, or are they more inclined because now they can download anything, they can watch anything, they can hear anything?
Well, we encourage them at Montclair State and at Juilliard to go see live music. The beginning of the year, the middle of the year, the end of the year. Like summertime, go to these free concerts. Summertime, go to music stuff in the park, even if it's a play in the park, a play, you know. Um, if it's somebody at a mall, go experience the arts. It's not about being in the practice room in a vacuum or just hanging with your buddies. You need to go out and experience it. Sometimes with your friends, make other people go. Go to jam sessions. You know, um, I know at the Juilliard School, we have a thing where they have to go see a certain amount of events and write about them. It's a motivator to get them off the campus and go. I mean, there they can go to Dizzy's for free. But Montclair State, one of our faculty members, Mike Lee, has a jam session in Teaneck, and there's events that happen in Montclair all the time. So there's really no excuse. You can get carpools together and go see people. The train station in Montclair is right there. Go to the city, go to Smalls, you know? So we encourage it. And they have little jam sessions and things set up at the cafeteria for the students. Go support your colleagues, you know? Check them out, you know? You
We
learn
have
from
public
everybody.
library.
Yeah, yeah. Library gigs, summer in the parks, you know, set up a gig or just go out somewhere and play on the street, put a tip bucket down there, make a scene, you know, develop a scene, you know. I'll play at your restaurant, just feed us. You don't have to pay us. We'll put a tip bucket up. Make a scene. We all did that, you know.
I think it's with the pandemic having hit a lot of the students who have now graduated. I wonder how much of an impact that had on their ability to then break out of what the pandemic caused us all to become more internal, if you will, and go more digital. And if it's harder for them to now find the ability to play. Do you see what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah, but the ones who really want to play are gonna go.
Yeah.
Like, and I have to encourage my students from jazz house to college. The pandemic is over. So, like, open up, talk, put the phone down. Stop texting somebody in the same room or across the table from you. Speak to them, you know? This music thing is about human beings. It's not about the digital in between. You have to talk to people. You have to look, you know, make eye contact, touch somebody, you know. Um, yeah, the pandemic is over. So we have to get back to real human interaction, you know. A lot of people are starving for it still. Some people still have one foot in the lake of the pandemic and the other one's on the shore. And they got to get their foot out of that water. You know, some people are happy to still be in that. I don't know why, because it was miserable. You know, during the pandemic, we got together, a bunch of us around here. We had outdoor concerts where we spaced each other out and we played great singer Kate Curran. We were at her house playing in her backyard on the driveway in the grass and everything. And we filmed it and had it live, Facebook Live or whatever, and we got a little money. It wasn't enough to pay a bill, but everybody made like 30 bucks here, 40 bucks here, you know, just to keep playing, just to keep having community, you know?
Yeah, I think it may be a comfort zone or safety, a security blanket, if you will, that if you are embracing that still, like you said, one foot in, then it doesn't require you to have to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation.
A lot of people have social anxiety. You know, a lot of people do. You know, inherently I'm kind of shy, but you have to learn to speak up. You know, it's been a work in progress. Um, you just got to push for it because otherwise it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. No one's going to make it happen for you. You have to go and gather the people or do it for yourself. You know?
I totally agree with you. I have issues with social anxiety from time to time, and for me, what my salve is music, and it's exactly what brings me around and gives me comfort. And I've in the like the concert on Sunday. If I wonder if anyone watching my face, you would see every emotion going through it because the music touches me in such a way, and something will make me smile, or something will really touch me in the ballad, or and then I get sad, and I get such an all body experience for me to listen to music. And so, if I have any issues of anxiety or whatnot, it's my comfort, and
Yeah,
I may have to force myself to get into that situation to go to somewhere to listen, but I walk out a different person. And
yeah.
for that, as an audience member, I am eternally grateful to every musician, and I thank you.
Well, I appreciate you for being there. We need educated listeners. And educated listeners need to bring lesser educated people so they can become educated. We got to keep this is America's music, you know. Everybody is welcome to the party, but you should know the rules of engagement. This is America's music, so I want to keep it going, you know. I tell my students, we're not going to be here forever. So take these lessons and do something with it so you can keep it going. Keep the stories, the mythology going. Learn the techniques, keep it going. Express yourself, reflect on the past, evaluate the present so that, you can stay out here, you know. It's really that simple.
Ted Cho made a good comment on Sunday about the fact that you can produce all the music, but the importance of creating the audiences, and that's one of the things that I'm trying to do at the library, and it's and make sure that it's available free to everyone, students, anybody. That's the library's mission, is
Yeah.
available for free. But it's jazz is truly something that touches everybody, and I hope that it'll continue forever and ever. And we can all enjoy the incredible music that you have produced. So I know that you have four CDs of your own. Am I right?
Yes. And I have a few in the can that I need to put out. I
Well,
do
I
have
look
a few in
forward
the
to
can.
hearing them for sure. And I know that you've also recorded on numerous other CDs and Grammy nominated, and I believe award winners too. So, yeah, you're very talented. I very much appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today, Bruce.
Oh, no problem. I appreciate you, Patty.
Well, thank you very much. And if you'd like to follow Bruce on Instagram, his handle is Big Solid 11, and I highly recommend you do so that you can follow him and go see him perform live, because it's worth um, the experience for sure.
All the notes are for you. I
Thank you very much, Bruce. I really appreciate it.
appreciate you, Patty. Thank you.